Today is Tuesday, June 24th, and that matters because, well, things are changing oh so quickly in the EV pricing landscape. Lease deals, all sorts of incentives, tariffs, the $7,500 tax credit could be going away. There's so much happening, and it's getting close to the end of quarter two, the first half of 2025, which means automakers are churning out all kinds of incentives to help move units to ensure that the first half of the year and quarter two were really good. We got the R1T dual standard with the standard 92 kilowatt hour battery pack, their entry level trim. Okay, you can get this starting at $566 a month. Absolutely insane. Of course, that's with literally no options. LA silver paint, which is my favorite paint option, okay, but it is also the entry level paint. Maybe you want to change up the color just a bit. Standard battery pack, LFP, comes from China, 92 kilowatt hours. All right, same Black Mountain dark ashwood interior. Your 21-inch all-season wheels is actually hauled up well, and you have actually some other great tire options, unlike Rivian's Gen 1, which that's a whole other conversation. Point being, this is actually a really, really good deal. Now, the problem with leases is you get in the calculator and it's like 36 month, 10,000 miles. Really, 10,000 miles? Mark it up to 15. Who's only driving 10,000 miles a year? I'm sure many of you, but for a road tripper like me, okay, I need the 15,000 miles annually. For someone like me, credit score, it's really in like the 400s. So, joking. You might change some things here, and once you start playing with it, you get different prices, and of course, the mark of the beast, that down payment. You change that to 0, and then things mark up, but nothing down except regular taxes and your acquisition fees and your first month payment. $895 a month, $859 a month, 10,000 miles, $803 a month for a R1T dual standard. I think this is honestly a pretty good value. Of course, when you put it like that, you can also get the R1T dual, large, max, and tri for not much more, but you are putting a little bit more money down. But nothing down, $803 a month, that isn't bad. I put nothing down though, all right, and I pay $560 a month for my LA Silver R1T with a large battery pack and the dual performance upgrade. Okay, 3.5 seconds 0 to 60, 135 kilowatt hour battery. All right, things awesome. And those are the lease deals that I miss. Okay, there was the summer of 2024. I can close my eyes and remember it. It was bliss. All right, Rivian was bleeding. Okay, demand was in need, and so they were just giving everyone a Rivian. You get a Rivian, you get a Rivian, I got a Rivian. And comparatively, these offers aren't as great, but if you want to get into an R1T or R1S, this deal also applies to the R1S dual standard. You can get an R1S for a pretty good value. So now might be the time to snag up an R1S. You see here, estimated release, 36 months, 10,000 miles, $6,000 down. Of course, you got to pay the acquisition fee and the first month's payment, $612 a month. That is actually pretty good. Do it signing $8,507. Woo! Now, there are some other offers, and when you put in perspective Rivian leases, okay, because Rivian leases typically are like $800 starting off, and that is with a down payment and with the $7,500 tax credit. You take those away, and that's like $1,000 for a dual standard. And then you go on the flip side, and you go to something like the Ford F-150 Lightning. All right, hate to kind of put this out here, but you can get the F-150 Ford Lightning, all right, for like $300 at most Ford dealerships near you. That will change whether you're getting the Platinum or the XLT or the Flash trim. But regardless, you can find really good deals when it comes to 2024 and 2025 F-150 Ford Lightnings. Much better deal, sometimes a third of the cost, half of the cost of that R1T. So if you really want a truck, then of course, it might be worth looking at an R1T. Then you kind of go on the flip side of things and you head over here to the Tesla Cybertruck. And it's kind of their comparative with, Rivian. You do entry-level rear-wheel drive, long range. It's $779 a month. I don't know who's bought this. If you have bought a long-range Cybertruck with the rear-wheel drive, please let me know down in the comments. Genuinely, I would love to speak to you. I want to know why, how, what the process is, and what your experience is like, because I have not yet to see one. And that is because, well, for $20 more, you can get the all-wheel drive. And yeah, I mean, $20 more for more power, better 0 to 60, a better interior. I mean, there's much more in the all-wheel drive and, of course, the Cyber Beast than in the regular long range. Point being, we're talking about the price here. All right, price is kind of competitive and comparable to the R1T. But again, that Ford Lightning price over here, okay, I look at this and I'm like, this is absolutely crazy. Some of these lease offers, okay? Once you're in Florida, $259 a month for an XLT. All right, $5,000 down. Of course, if you're looking into buying a Rivian, you can use Kyle's out of spec Rivian referral code that will be linked in the description. I also have a Rivian referral code, maybe that will be somewhere, we'll see. And so you have options out there. There's some really good Rivian offers. And again, Ford Lightning offers, kind of just showing as a comparison there. Also some really good deals over there. Now, I should preface, you have to take delivery by June 30th. Okay, so that is around the corner. That is within this week into the coming week. And this really means you're only going to be getting vehicles that are in inventory. They're trying to get some of this inventory out before the end of, the first half of 2026, the end of Q2. Also, we got the 2026 model year Rivians coming out. And as I've already mentioned, I'm kind of speculating that they're going to get rid of the standard 92 kilowatt hour battery pack, instead give it the large pack and just software lock it, kind of ease production for them. And of course, again, the large pack comes from China. There's tariffs around that. Maybe Rivian wants to avoid that. But point being, you're going to have to go through inventory if you want to be able to take delivery of your Rivian R1T or R1S. And you have some really good options here, right? You see this forest green, beautiful color here. The all-season wheels, 20 inches, right over here for $641 a month. $6 transfer fee, but the zip code's for Seattle. I don't live in Seattle. I'm in Florida, so opposite direction. But you'll see here, right? R1T dual standard, white, nice, black, sport, 22-inch wheels. Looks magnificent. And so you have some options here, depending on what you want to pick for paint or wheels. Only bad thing about the standard is the paint options. I believe it's only right here, 5 paint options: LA Silver, Glacier White, El Cap Granite, Midnight Black, and then Forest Green. You do get 4 tire options and 2 interior options. But unlike that for the Tri, where you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 paint options, 5 wheel options, and then the premium Ascend interior options. But I'm thinking some things are going to change for the 2026 model year, especially when it comes to the standard. Preferably, what I would like to see Rivian introduce is a cheaper entry level of the R1T or R1S. All right, give us some cloth instead of leather in certain areas or wood in certain areas. Give it cloth, same standard battery pack, or the large pack software locked. What are we thinking here, right? Regular spring suspension, get rid of that air suspension. What could we remove, guys? Help me. We're thinking here. Rear wheel drive. I think something like that would be great and would allow more people to get into Rivians. But again, as I've mentioned in the last video about Rivian on the Out of Spec Bitch channel, it kind of seems that Rivian really wants to focus on R2 for now. All right, they want to focus on R2, give all that love and energy to R2, and decreasing the price of R1 would only, mess with and combat with the pricing lineup that they would have for R2. So it makes sense to kind of leave R1 alone and kind of focus more on R2. But I'm with you guys when it comes to introducing a cheaper R1 series. All right, I think that would just make the most sense. And Rivian also has some margin things, and they're trying to make sure that they're profitable. But I think decreasing the price of it can lift another demand lever and open up Rivians to more people. I think this also opens up a bigger, larger discussion about leasing versus buying outright, financing. I was doing a little bit of a calculation, and if I bought my Rivian instead of leasing it, I would lose about $300 every single month in depreciation, which is kind of absolutely insane. And I think, maybe from some of me listening to Dave Ramsey, that leasing is absolutely stupid. But, you factor in depreciation, opportunity cost, maybe just fun, right? Like, I love my Rivian, and it is an enthusiast car for me. It's something that I wanted, so I can justify the price, then you even factor in the fact that leasing was cheaper than financing in the long term, well, leasing just makes sense. And so leasing, for I imagine many of you are leasing your EVs, it's what I call an emerging technology. You're getting automakers introducing new model years that are cheaper than the previous model years, and the newer model years are better, and you have all of these offers and options. And so naturally people are going to go for the new EVs, meaning that the used EV market doesn't have as much demand. There's also uncertainty when it comes to the technology, the longevity of the batteries, the motors, powertrain as a whole. And so the used EV market really not as strong, which leads to major depreciation because no one wants to buy a secondhand used EV. And so soon we're going to see the Rivian market flooded with these leased vehicles within the next year or two. The first, I believe, Rivian leases are ending pretty soon. I'm pretty sure they're ending at this date here. So pretty soon we're going to see more and more Rivian leases, which means better used prices on the Rivian used market. Then that's also another opportunity I talk to people about. I mean, the Rivian powertrain warranty is like 150,000 miles for the dual standard minimum for the motors and the battery. In warranty, a used Rivian would actually probably do you really good. So looking at used vehicles would probably also be a really good option. Whole point about me mentioning the leasing thing is, though, like half of Rivian's vehicle sales are in leases. If we see the $7,500 tax credit go down, we are going to see the money factor increase. We're going to see the price of leases increase. We are going to see it be harder for people to get into a Rivian via a lease, which means you're going to see a decrease in deliveries, a decrease in revenue, and that's going to help hurt Rivian's margins, which is not a good thing and is not something that they want. So it's going to be interesting to see how automakers, not just Rivian, Tesla, Lucid, Polestar, GM, Ford, combat the loss of the $7,500 tax credit, specifically when it comes to leasing and how it's going to affect their sales. Last quarter, Rivian only delivered less than 9,000 vehicles. That's a lot less than previous quarters. They attributed a lot of it to do with macroeconomics as well as the California fires. Rivians are pretty big in California, and so Los Angeles fires and the Palisades fire. And so that kind of hurt them. But, really quarter two is where we're really going to see these numbers, how Rivian is actually doing in terms of health and demand. Really, I just think we need to see R2, okay? I just want R2 at this point. Love my R1T, okay? But R2, I think, is really where it's at. Any R2 orderers there, out there? Yes. I imagine well over like 100,000, 200,000 people have pre-ordered R2 at this point. I ordered 2, probably only need 1, but I will be immediately switching out of my R1T into an R2. We're expecting this is a lease Rivian offer video turned into an R2 video. We're doing it live. R2, we're expecting dual, of course. The Maximus motor is what the name of it. So you have Enduro motor. That's the single motor that goes in the dual motor Rivians, front and back, all-wheel drive. Then you have the Ascent motor, and that is the dual drive train for the Tri and the Quad. That's the Ascent, and they have the Maximus, which is pretty much the same as the Enduro, but downsized and made for the R2. And we're expecting dual to come first. I do not think we're going to get Tri or even rear-wheel drive until the Georgia factory comes online in 2027, 2028 at the very earliest. So don't hold your breath about that. We could be seeing a rear-wheel drive out of normal, but really I think we're going to try to focus on the dual motor variant, the all-wheel drive. That's where most of their sales are going to be, and that's still decent margins compared to the rear-wheel drive R2, just not as high as the tri-motor R2. And R3 is a whole different conversation. Again, that's not going to be produced till Georgia, which as of right now isn't going to be online until 2028. So kind of sucks. But R2 is around the corner. Rivian is trying to ensure that, their sales are beefed up for the end of quarter two. So again, if you are interested in buying a Rivian, use our referral code to get like 500 Rivian points, okay? And you can use that 500 points to buy $500 worth of Rivian gear, right? That is like super, super cool. I bought a camp tent the other day, and that's it. And some cargo crossbars. So the points come in handy because you can use them for stuff. It's also the 2026 model year, and also Rivian's increasing their prices about $1,000 each model, only like $90 for the dual large, but the dual standard now starts at $70,990. Dual large, $77,990, going up from $900. And then the dual max, $84,990. and the Trimax up from $99,900 to $100,990. Is that $1,000 price increase making a difference for most people buying 70, 80,000, $100,000 vehicles? I don't really think so. But we do know the quad is coming. That's expected to be about $115 to $121,000 starting price. Bonkers. But I'm curious to know what you guys think down in the comments, though. Really, specifically when it comes to just all automakers and some of their leasing incentives. You also see Tesla on the flip side doing things like if you buy FSD, you'll get certain percent financing, or you'll get this free paint color instead, or for the Cybertruck, right, free FSD. Everyone's pulling levers so they ensure that their balance sheets are looking strong for Q2. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. This is Out of Spec. My name is Isaiah, and I'll see you guys in the next one.